Environmental and Social Commitment Plan, ESCP. I believe you have been following with us on the previous webinars we've been having on environmental and social framework for investment projects. I believe that you have been following us from the first module to the end, into the 6th module. This is now the 7th module, module A. So we're taking the environmental and social commitment plan. Please don't miss any part of module 7 because all of it will be a series that will be linked to each other. So it will be good for you to follow all the sub-modules. We're taking 7A now, all the way to 7F. I would like you to take it through so that when we are doing the quiz, you will be able to follow based on your attendance and your understanding. Okay, so we dive straight in. For this module 7, we will be looking at the ESCP, that's Environmental and Social Commitment Plan, and what it is, the content, and so on. So this particular one we are taking right now will show participants how the into account the findings of the environmental and social assessment. Remember in the previous model, okay? So the results of engagements with stakeholders, disclosure issues, and all that. It will be accurate. The ESCP usually will be an accurate summary of the material measures and actions required to avoid, minimize, reduce, or if you like, mitigate the potential risks and impacts of the project to the communities and, of course, to the environment. So the major catch for the ESCP will be actions to avoid, to minimize, to reduce or mitigate, the environmental risk and impacts of the project to the surrounding environment. So this presentation is prepared, using the World Bank's draft for consultation 2014, and as an annex to the Environmental and Social Standard 1, that is the assessment and management of environmental and social risks and impact. So we'll dive in straight to what it is. So the investment projects, like we have always discussed, that a borrower will implement a number of measures and actions to ensure that the project is constructed and operated in compliance with the ESSS and with the performance standards that have been made available by the World Bank. Okay, so the ESCP, the next slide, the ESCP, which is the Environmental and Social Commitment Plan, is actually a form of an agreement between the borrower and the lender. Okay, the borrower being the investment project implementer or the proponent or the client, and then the World Bank, which is the lender. Okay, and forms a part of a legal agreement. So it will be developed as information regarding the risks and impacts of the project outcome. It will take into account the findings of the environmental and social assessments, and then of course the environmental and social due diligence as well. So it will take into account this and then formulate it in the form of a summary. As we go on, I will discuss the two forms of the ESCP. One is actually very detailed and the other one just refers to documents. So it depends on the project and what the project seeks to achieve, and some sensitivities. There are parameters to check the extent of coverage of the ESCP, but basically it's a form of an agreement. Okay, and the results of engagement of stakeholders is also key in the ESCP, since it forms a central part of the project. Okay, so it's normally at the time of project scoping, the preparation of the ESCP starts, just so as it is started as early as possible. So during the scoping exercise for the environmental and social impact assessment, the ESC comments at that time, so that as engagements are proceeding, as engagements are being conducted, some of the components are also being developed in the ESCP. Okay, it also serves as a tool to facilitate the identification of potential risk and impact, and also serves as a tool for developing mitigation measures. So it is designed to consolidate into one summary document the material measures and actions that are required for the project to achieve compliance with the ESS, that's the Environmental and Social Standards time frame, in a manner satisfactory to the bank. Okay, so this is what the ESCP is. So the content of the ESCP, like I said in the introduction, that it differs sometimes from project to project. So, but the ESCP will be an accurate summary in a generic form, measures and actions to avoid, minimize, reduce, or mitigate the potential environmental and social risk of, social risks and impact of the project. So it's usually forms the basis for monitoring the environmental and social performance of the project, basically. All requirements will be set out clearly so that there is no ambiguity around compliance, timing, and monitoring. So depending on the project, the ESCP may specify funding to be made available for completion of a particular measure or of a particular obligation of the borrower or of the proponent. So the ESCP sets to say, okay, this amount will be spent for so amount, for during so time by so, that's the implementation. So it includes so many other hints. It may not really be in detail, but it includes hints that lead to those measures implementation. Okay, so obligations of the borrower. The content of the also captures the obligation of the borrower. For some projects, the ESCP will capture all relevant obligations of the borrower and will be it will not have additional plans. In the earlier module we talked about the different plans that have to be put in place, or the different measures that have to be put in place for specific projects. If you recall, in our previous modules, if you didn't attend that, you can just find them in the YouTube channel and listen to them, listen to those clips, so that we can be on the same page. Okay. So for some projects, it will be that comprehensive in the way that all of the obligations and all of the that we discussed is projects. It will refer to other plans instead of capturing the plans in the ESCP. It will refer to those other plans in other documents, maybe resettlement action plan, like we discussed, maybe environmental and social management plan, maybe livelihood restoration plan. It depends on the plans, or hazardous waste management plan. So it will refer to those plans. The ESCP will refer to those plans because it sets out detailed project requirements. So in circumstances that the ESCP will summarize key aspects of the plans, it will make references. So where plans are to be developed, the ESCP will set out timeframes for completion of those plans, because the plans are not available yet, but the ESCP, if it has to go on, it will set out the time frame for the implementation of such plans. Okay, so but where the project is relying on use of borrowers' existing environmental and social framework, the ESCP will identify the specific aspects of the national framework with respect to the relevant ESSS. Okay, so the implementation and timing for ESCP. This particularly states that if the borrower is required to plan or take specific measures and actions over minimize, don't forget, those are our keywords: avoid, minimize, reduce, or mitigate specific impacts of the project. So in this case, the borrower may not carry out any activity in relation to the project that may cause material impact, either social or environmental, until the relevant plans are put in place, until measures or actions have been completed, and where necessary, until it is implemented to the satisfaction of the borrower, okay? Including satisfying applicable requirements on consultation and disclosure. Remember the module we took on consultation and disclosure, all right? So in rounding up this module, I'll just show you an example of an ESCP. This is an example of an ESCP. I will check this out. I wish I can zoom it for you to see, but you can see specifically it's from your right, your left corner, you see requirements, you see source of the requirements. You can refer to documents. You see the implementation date and the KPI or the reporting. The KPI is key performance indicator, or the reporting, that's information to the World Bank in annual environmental monitoring reports. That's what it means. So these components are captured in the ESCP. So you can take a screenshot of it and look at it, or I can share the documents that explains the ESCP more, so that you can see examples of ESCPs for different projects. There's one for power project, another one for mining. I think we have another one for a road project. I'm not sure, but mining and power we have. So it's going to be attached for you to go through it. The requirements will just be like prepare and submit environmental and social monitoring reports. You can read from there, and show status of compliance with the legal agreement. And then the source of requirements, ESS 1 or 2 or so. And then implementation dates, semi-annually, construction annually, so in that manner, this is how the format is supposed to be, as summarized as possible, okay? So we'll end the 7A for the ESCP. Please look out for the 7B, and then let's take a break and get back here. My name is Comfort. You can reach me on comfort@richflood.com at any time, and I'll be happy to take on your projects and we can discuss your challenges